hear that sound, what comes to your mind? That we are talking about Africa, that we are traveling, and that we are having the rhythm in us as we know that our continent is so beautiful. We have to share it with you. I'm your host, and you know that for this edition, you are going to learn more. We send a very big hug to those watching us from Gambia, Senegal, Benin, Togo. We are really happy to have you all the time coming back to us, giving us a feedback and telling us what you would like to see for the next edition, because it's our culture. We have to put it forward. We're going to have somebody today as a guest, and what I really appreciated about his quality as the guest for Afrikultures is that he is a man of God. Yes, he's a man of God, but he's also a Cameroonian. He's also an African. So how does he cope with those two aspects? Because we know that we Africans, we have our rituals. When you get back to the village, we have our way of being. So today he's going to tell us how he manages to be that African and also that pastor, and how he manages to make his life, having his living, having a success in this continent. So I will thank our guest for being here today. Is Pastor, I nearly forgot, it's Pastor Tatoh Kenneth. Welcome to Afrikultures.
Thank you so very much, Tessa. I'm so glad to be with you on Afrikultures today. And I say hello to you and to our viewers.
So I'll go straight to the problem. Tell us, how did you manage to separate both or bring both together to make yourself comfortable in your continent?
In fact, I won't cease to thank God sincerely for making me an African, because this is one of those, I think, as of now, I think this is the best continent of all the 5 continents in the world. This for me is the best continent. And the unfortunate situation we have is that people have tried to demonize Africa. But it's such a great continent that when you look at it, even from the biblical perspective, from a long time ago, God had a great plan for Africa. And when you see in many areas, God had to salvage many situations by turning to Africa. An example I want to quote: when Jesus Christ was being chased by Herod to be killed, God sent that he should take refuge in Africa. So Africa is such a wonderful place, and it is true, like every other continent, Africa has its own traditional practices. But what I know and what I am persuaded about is that Africa is wonderful, and we can always pick the good ones, adhere to, while we keep aside the negative ones, and also educate our people to adhere to the positive ones and put aside the negative ones that have a negative repercussion on their spiritual being, on the economy, on their social beings and health and what have you.
So we are going to get straight into the big question for this part of our program, to know, do you read, and what do you read?
Yeah, I'm somebody with a very huge desire for reading. I read much, and on the top of my reading, I like reading Christian literature, followed by history. I like to always be informed. I always like to have a traceability of 1 or 2 things. I like reading pretty much.
Is there a book that the young ones are following you? Which book can you advise to a young African right now to read?
When you talk about books in particular, I want to say I'm a little reluctant to call this a book, because it is a source of life. I want to talk about the Bible first. That's what I can say.
I nearly said apart from the Bible.
Oh, you nearly said so. And I answered your question also with the mindset that in fact we were talking apart from the Bible, because I am a little reluctant to call it a book. Yeah, it is just a source of life and a livelihood for
yes.
us.
Can you give us what you think an African child today can go and gain something in it? Which parts of it?
I think the key verse that somebody should pick from the Bible and be able to make it a part of his life is John chapter 3 and verse 16, which says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever, an African boy, an African girl included, believes in him should not perish but have eternal life." When you have that and make it a part of your life, make it a point for reflection, it can always chart a great course for you, because I believe one's life revolves around his spirituality. So when you succeed to lay this foundation, many other things else can fall in place.
Then what do you think about the sayings from the Egyptologist, the Afrikaners, those who are purely in Africa, who believe that the Bible does not say the reality is that it wasn't a white man who automatically saved the world, that they were all blacks?
Yeah, the question is not as to, I think Jesus was more universal than a black or a white man. Yeah, so it is not an issue of color here. Yeah, it's true that our color as Africans make us unique, but I want us to look at man from the viewpoint of the spirit and the soul, because that is the essence. The color, it has its own part to play, but it is so subjective. Yeah, it's subjective.
We are going to ask questions. We are really going to enjoy this program because it's time for us to know the difference, you know, understand what we are, who we are, because that is where the confusion sometimes comes up, because they tell you that you're controlled. They tell you that religion was some sort of drug to the African continent. But we are going to understand how he understands it and how he has managed to make it in our continent. We are going to start right now with the author, and for this edition we have an association which has been donating books all over Africa. I would like you to watch it and meet us just after that.
Books are very important because they help children expand their imagination.
And the books are important because they inform the children, they give them the knowledge, they give them everything they need in life.
And open up their minds to understand what exactly they are learning.
A book is a good thing because to me, I believe without books, without a book, there's no life.
Books for Africa is helping Africa to redress a huge gap in education. A lot of schools have been built, but they don't have resources. Literacy programs are floundering because of even a lack of simple grade 2, grade 1 books.
If you can put a book in the hands of a child now, in a short time, that child is going to become a leader of his family, his co-op, his village.
Books for Africa is pleased to be the world's largest shipper of books to Africa. We've sent over 38 million books to 49 countries. And we're also sending a lot of computers now, e-readers, a lot of digital content.
We've been around 30 years and look at all the kids who've grown up with nothing. We have to do more, and with your help, we can do it.
Books. That was a great time. You can understand that giving books can make people happy, can save a generation, and that is what we encourage, because through books we educate as well as concentrate our child on what we would like him to distract himself with. In a book you can grow, in a book you can discover a whole other different thing from what you live every day of your life. So Pastor, I would like us to go ahead. You're a writer, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm a writer. 3 publications now on the market.
I think you have them with you there. So explain to us, how does it come for you to write the books? What happens really? What inspires you?
I think the first of things is divine inspiration. Yeah, when I have a divine inspiration, I think if I only talk to people, I speak for a short term. But when I write a book, it is for posterity. Generations after me are going to benefit from what I've written.
Okay.
So I began the first book, which I published in 2013. I wrote, it was a Christian motivational. And thereafter, I had this burden, this desire to see sanity, a level of sanity brought into marriage and family life. So I began a series called the Marriage and Family Life series, which I published the first of the books in it that is in 2017.
Okay.
Yeah, so I began with Before You Say I Do. This one is a book encouraging, or in fact laying the foundation, giving people the direction of how singles can prepare for marriage and live responsibly as singles and end up getting married and having a good married life.
Does it mean that Pastor discovered that Africans are also really going for divorce, or something went wrong?
It is actually a very serious issue, Africa included, because as the days are going by, I want to say that in fact, the culture that Africans had as far as family life is concerned, over time is actually getting diluted. So I had to really, write some things down in order to bring us back to the track, the path where we had been in, because Africa had, this idea of, respect, mutual respect, was already, getting on the balance. Had to write to.
As you said, that women have become very independent.
Yeah, after the Beijing conference and the other things, our African women were already, losing that great beauty in them, because our African women are just so wonderful, such a great breed. So I wrote this in order to get us, read back and get to the point of mutual respect and have our audience.
So
our audience.
tell us about the second one. This one is Before I Do. So
no, before you say I do.
Before you actually say I do.
Yeah,
okay.
Before you actually go to exchange your marriage vows, what are the things you're supposed to do, and what are the things you're supposed to really, build yourself on in order to really be a good wife or good husband.
Okay.
And then after that, in 2019, I launched Effective Conflict Management in Marital Relationships. Yeah, this book, I discovered that at the core, at the center of divorce and separation lies this very awkward word called conflict. And there is no marriage that will be void of conflict. So I thought it is going to be good to get people have some hands-on management skills as far as conflict is concerned, such that couples don't drift apart because they got married and conflict tore them apart, and rather than enjoy marriage, they ended up enduring marriage.
So for you, if we are talking clearly, it's because we are losing our values as Africans. That's why we are having this issue of divorce and conflicts in couples.
Actually, as I've said, not to say lose is too big, but I would say they're getting diluted. Our values are getting diluted. Our culture as Africans, we have some political values. When I say political values, within the context of a family, we know that the family has a head. Every family has a head, which is the man. And every, maybe quarter will have a head. A clan, a village to say, will have a head. A clan will have a head. And then there will be a paramount head, which will, be in charge of that society. Along the line, you discover that respect that these various people were having is depleting. And that is one of the things which cause stress in marriage. And the rate of divorce was only on the rise. So I thought it is very good that we go back to those fundamental values that we had as Africans, which are going to really keep us on the track, will keep us moving, keep the beauty of our continent. Yeah.
Okay, so we should curve what we see from the others. When they get to us, we know we have our culture, we have our tradition, we have our values, and as such, we'll try to have our happy family and respect our chiefs as well, respect our leaders, because that's the culture that we have in Africa.
Exactly, because if you look at it, you see that there are people who have watched foreign series, films, movies, and are wanting to copy what they see on it.
Pastor, we are getting to that. We are getting to that. We are going to talk about it. We are just going to go straight into the world of the Gary, discover what has been chosen for us this edition.
Welcome to the gritty neighbourhood of Bedford-Stuyvesant, where a multi-million-dollar secret lies behind this front door.
Hello, welcome. I'm Eric Edwards, and this is my African artifacts collection in my apartment.
Over 44 years, Eric has crammed statues and one-of-a-kind pieces into every nook and cranny of his property and estimates his collection is worth $10 million.
Well, I have a few expensive pieces. That's the palace drum from Nigeria, which is estimated at approximately $1 million. It's the only one like it in the world. This lion came from South Africa, and I know the entire history of it. It was killing cattle in South Africa, and they had to hunt it down and shoot it. Creators of this art didn't think of it as art as such as we do. It was created for utilitarian purposes, whether that was for ceremonial, whether that was embodiments and symbols and emblems of power.
Eric was introduced to African art and culture by his father, who moved to America from Barbados when he was 18 years old.
And what struck him first upon his arrival, the level of racism in Brooklyn that he never experienced back in Barbados. And so, because of the racism that he knew we, his children, would encounter, he felt it was very important that we knew our history and our culture and where we came from.
Over 4 decades, Eric has amassed thousands of items.
Well, I've lived many lives and I had many careers, and I made a significant amount of money. So I went to the auctions and in sales in the galleries, and I used to travel extensively around the world. And I started purchasing pieces when they were truly affordable and started building my collection.
Eric's sister Myrna started helping him with his collection 12 years ago.
He's always been big on collecting. Since he was a little boy, he was collecting airplanes. He was into that. He collected Lionel trains. As he grew old, I think it's a wonderful collection, and the value of it cannot be overstated.
Now, rather than keeping his collection behind closed doors, Eric wants to share his artifacts with the public in the hope of educating people about African culture.
I think there's a real need for a museum of African culture because of the fact that the highest concentration of people of African descent in the United States live in Brooklyn.
That is it. That's the truth about what we are going through. We should value what we have. There are some people who will just say, the man is, what's wrong with him? He has been collecting for more than 40 years works of art because he wants to be in contact with his continent. So we have to value what we have. I suppose that Pastor Tatoh comes from a particular region in Cameroon, and that there also there's something that we need to discover.
Yeah, I hear from the Northwest region.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and when I saw the artifacts of the man's gallery, I could really go down memory lane to see. I had an uncle who was dealing all of that, so our house used to have
looking like his own.
Yeah, but not as organized as his own. But we used like, what is he really doing with this? It's over time that I discovered it's such a great thing to keep touch with the continent, as you say.
Okay, that was the gallery for this edition. I hope you understood that we are Africans and we are doing great. And you see, when you keep contact with your roots, you know you are not lost. When you get into contact with the other ones, you need to know whom you are. That is very important. At that time, you can integrate, you can live with them, and know that nobody is going to change you into what you are not. So right now, we are going to get into the world of the beauty contest, or we can say the fashion parade. I'd like to ask, because I'm just seeing the smile already on Pastor's face. Have you ever attended a fashion parade?
Yeah, I've done one. I've attended one within a Christian context, though. So,
so tell me, how is a fashion parade in the Christian context?
Yeah, they just showcase their beauty, in fact, their designs, and just do a parade, and we watch and appreciate. At the end of the day, there was a winner of a prize, but that was more of a competition which earned the winner a prize. And it was, I think we had, within that context, we had about 3 designers, and at the end of it all, we could also include that this is done in Africa, this is done by our own very people, and it was just so amazing to see what our women can do, what our designers here can do.
I'm very happy that Pastor said the truth, because I would have said that the dress you're wearing is a designer.
Yeah, this is done in Bamenda.
So we are all implicated into fashion, and I would like us to discover this young lady. She's from Sudan, and what she has done is really impressive. She is born black, completely black, and she's even more black than I am. So you can imagine how the world looked at her, and they said maybe she wasn't beautiful or whatsoever, but today she's amongst the top models in the US, and she's still that. So watch it, and let's continue just after that.
I call an Uber, and the Uber driver pulled up. He asked me that if I was given 10 grand, would I bleach my skin color? I never had a problem with how I look until I came to the US. And that's when I started looking at myself in the mirror and I'm like, wow, I do look different. That's when I finally realized that my skin was different or was bad, because kid was laughing at me. Kid was making comments like, go take a shower. Kid was telling me, we can't see you in the dark. I'm hearing all these comments and I was just like, what is happening? Like something wrong with my skin? Like I could shower this and take this off? They're literally scared of what I look like, you know? And that hurt. I was so nervous, but I loved that. I was like, this is fun, like just being on the stage. And then a week later, I did a photo shoot with a local photographer, and I was like, I should give this a shot. To prove those people too that thought I wasn't beautiful, that I'm gonna be up there. You're gonna see me on magazines, and you're gonna be like, oh, that's that girl from middle school. I feel like modeling industry is biased toward fair skin, and it has been for a long time, but I also feel like it's changing. When I was starting off modeling and I would see this image of me looking lighter than what I really am, I would feel like this is what they want me to look like. Sometimes they ask me, come makeup ready. Can you bring your own foundation? Where all my other model friends don't have to do that. I have not found the product to contour my face that's dark enough. Or I use a black eyeshadow to contour my face. So my dream is that create products that I could use and people that as my complexion would not have a hard time finding. I call an Uber and the Uber driver pulled up. He asked me that if I was given 10 grand, would I bleach my skin? And then I asked him why. He said because so you can avoid all the dirty looks, so guys will find you attractive. He's like, don't you have a hard time being as black as you are? And I just laughed and I told him that I'm beautiful the way I am. I don't need life to be easy. If being light is gonna make my life easy, then I'm fine. I'll go the hard route. If you're being bullied, talk to someone, but talk to people that care about you. Talk to people that love you, you know? I wish there was somebody, when I was growing up, talking about how much they love themselves as being dark as they are. I just need to learn to love myself. When I love myself, they will see that that does not affect me, and then they'll eventually stop.
So true, you are beautiful, whether black or white or whatsoever the color, but being black is a prestige. As you could see, the lady had all the pressure from the world. She was told that being black is a problem. She was even proposed money to bleach. So you understand that the black color can bring you very, very far into this world. There are many, I'm sure, that they knew they were more beautiful than her, but just what God gave to her, as they say, it's a gift from God. Sure. And she has made it. She has left Sudan. She's now out there. She's amongst the best. So we would like to tell the youth out there that it's important to keep your personality. It's important to be proud of who you are. The others will just accept you. We are many who are following our program. You have the contact. If you would like to give us your vision, you would like to propose something for this particular edition or something to come, don't hesitate. You get to our WhatsApp. It's just WhatsApp, please, not calls. It's not easy. So we are going to proceed right now by going to Angola. And in Angola, we are going to have a fashion parade. I think that, but I would like to ask a question. What do you think of the world of modeling, sincerely talking. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think modeling is not in itself a bad thing, but the little worry I have with modeling is when people start wanting to disfigure some aspects about them in order to like there's some people who starve too much in order to get slim. There are some who, you know, they want to really kind of recreate themselves to be a model. I think it should be left for those who meet the criteria somehow. I don't know, for a particular context, who meet the criteria somehow to be a model in that area. There are repercussions at times when you try to maybe slim too much and to do one or two things in order to take a certain shape or to take a certain physiognomy to become a model.
Okay.
Yeah, and well, I think those outlooks are not as important as what you bring as your own contribution to your own generation, to our beautiful Africa. You want to be a model, a model not only with your physical looks, but a model in terms of your productivity, the impact you create, and the influence that you also bring to the lives of other people.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is cool. And as I said, we are going straight to Angola. There you see how the fashion industry is at a very high level. It was so beautiful, and we propose to you to discover and really appreciate, because Africa has got it all. We don't need to go again to other areas of the world to see beautiful things. We can be here and enjoy them. Let's go to Angola. Yeah, that is what they call the world of fashion. It was a fashion week in Angola, And we are always happy to remind you that in Africa we can do beautiful things, that we as Africans, we are capable of creating and making things great. We are going to thank our fellow brother from Madagascar already. We know he's from the DRC, but now it's Madagascar who has given him the trumpet, and and that's very important. What is really marking me in what we are living today with the COVID-19, it's that we had this, I think even in the Bible, people who are oppressed. And as long as they stand firm, what happens at the end is that there is success.
Sure, from time immemorial, there are people who have had interest in holding others back, especially when the people are elect of God. They will never be kept back. When you look at what is happening in Africa, you see that if attention was really paid to what is happening here, much can come out from this continent. When you even look at our own Cameroon, the Archbishop of Douala is also echoing that there is something on the ground. Why should we not set our eyes on it so that the best of it can be brought forth for a solution to this stalemate that the world is experiencing now?
Yeah.
So you see that Africa has a lot of potentials. And if care is not taken, we can kowtow to this marginalization or this low self-esteem, this dark image that is being attributed to Africa, and it will really it will hold Africa back from really manifesting the potentials that Africa has in itself.
Okay, today you see a young person who will tell you that I'm leaving Africa. I want to go and find a better life in another land. What do you tell that youth, for example?
I really think most of the time that's an escapee mentality that many people have, an escapee mentality for people to always think they can only make it elsewhere. And I've seen that bring a lot of frustration to many of our talented, skilled and intelligent African youths. Africa is still so virgin with a lot of opportunities and resources. So thinking that you will only make it out of Africa is a very huge error. And what we always encourage people is that when you are in a situation, you can make the best of what you have on hand for things to turn out the best. If you have the skills we have in Africa now, if we can harness these skills, Africa will be built within a very short space of time by virtue of the resources, by virtue of the opportunities that are still very open to Africa. Africa is not as saturated as elsewhere. And when you look at it, the mindset which many people have grown with today to think that Africans are a victim, I don't think we're a victim for any reason. We are not in our situation as caused by anybody. We can stand up as Africans for ourselves because the same God who is the God of Europe, the God of America, the God of Asia, the God of Australia, is the God of Africa. So there is nothing as bad as people thinking that Africa is such a bad place, it's better they should escape. At times it baffles me when people leave good jobs here to go work as security guards, in other countries to go on. Yeah, it is so we're living it now. And the fun is that they don't tell us exactly the kind of life they live there. What they do is they try to sugarcoat many things, come and tell, yeah man, I'm gonna do, I wanna do all of these things. And they are not, the life they're living is not the best of lives at all. It's true, we have some lapses at the level of leadership in Africa. That is not to be disputed. But nothing happens just at a go. It's a process. And I believe with the great job you're doing at Afrikultures and trying to bring people to the understanding that Africa is rich in various ways, the process is actually being enhanced. Where people can believe that us in Africa, we can create our own cars, we can manufacture them. In Africa, the best of medical doctors who graduate from here and want to look for greener pastures, they can actually stay here to deliver value to Africa. Because, I believe, and I'm strongly persuaded by the fact that Africa is still producing some of the finest breeds in the world.
Yeah.
I also believe, and I'm persuaded of the fact that Africa still has people who are human conscious. What am I talking about? That the community spirit we have in Africa does not exist elsewhere. Elsewhere, people are so individualistic in their tendencies. huge long fences are separate people, and you scarcely know.
Of 1800 and something are still hammering the head of everybody.
Yeah, you scarcely know who your neighbor is, and the hospitality we have here, that I can bump into Tessa's house at any time, tea, and at least share with her in her meal, like unlike elsewhere, that you need to notify that you want to come if you share with people in their supper. So we still have that that community spirit, that respect in Africa, where you can still flock your child, and the child comes back and say, okay, thank you, mommy, thank you for
I've learned something. I'll never do it again.
Unlike elsewhere, they need to call 911 or what's the number. They have to call so that the police come and picks a parent that has disciplined a child.
Okay.
So I think Africa, we are still so just so wonderful, and our situation is not as bad as many people appear to want to paint it. Yeah,
some medias try to paint it.
Some medias, and we ourselves, because when we think that we should, when we're interacting with people from other continents, we should be playing the victim.
Always crying.
We're always crying, always making like we are, in fact, we need help.
And that's what is killing us today. Even the Chinese who are coming to Africa and having resources to help them out are calling us, I don't know, names, and looking at us very low, and the treatment they are giving to our brothers there.
The treatment is bad.
We have to be conscious of it. I think instead of fighting back, the Chinese, as some countries have been doing, we understand that there's frustration, but we still have to work on our image. We still need to know who we are.
Very important.
Okay.
Africans have to know who they are. They have to know the potentials they have. I don't think Africans are intellectually inferior to anybody. Me, I'm not of that mindset.
Okay.
And neither do I think Africa is a continent inferior to other continents. Me, I'm not of that idea.
We really
as well.
need to know who we are. And I would like to ask you, what is the role of music in your life?
Music is just such a wonderful part of life, which I don't know whether I can do without music. Personally, I'm a lover of music, and it is a very good tool for reflection. Show me somebody who is stagnant in life, and I will tell you this is somebody who doesn't reflect. And when you use music as a tool for reflection, when the melody plays and touches the soul, it causes your faculties to be harnessed, and you can think, you can reflect, you can create, you can actually bring yourself back again together. When the pieces appear to be crumbling, you can put yourself back together with the help of music.
That's very important. So we have music, and we have to know who we are. Do you know who you are?
I do.
Okay.
Seriously, I know I'm wonderfully and fearfully made, and I know God has put a lot of potentials in me. As an African, I know I'm put here for a purpose. I have a mission here which has to be accomplished.
Okay, that's the artist for this edition. Watch it and know who you are, because we know who we are.
Chosen generation, we've been called for to show His excellence. Hey, all I require for life, God has given me, and I know who I am. We are a chosen generation, we've been called for to show His excellence. All I require for life, God has given me, for I know who I am. I know who God says I am, what He says I am, where He says I'm at. I know who I am. I know who God says I am, what He says I am, where He says I'm at. I know who I am. I'm working in power, I work in miracles, I live a life of favor. chosen generation. We've been called for to show His excellence. Yeah, all I require for life, God has given me, and I know who I am. We are a chosen generation. We've been called for to show His excellence. All I require for life, God has given me. I know who God says I am, what He says I am, where He says I'm at. I know who I am. I know who God says I am, what He says I am, where He says I'm at. I know who I am. I'm walking in power. I walk in miracles. I live a life of life. For I know who I am. Say, I'm walking in power. I walk in miracles. I live a life of favor. For I know who I am. Everybody shout lift your voice, shout I know who I am. Wave your hands, shout I know who I What are you? I am holy. Come on. I am righteous. Oh, so rich. I'm walking in power. I walk in miracles. I live a life of favor. For I know who I am.
Yes, I know who I am, and I hope that you also over there, you will know who you are, and that's very important, because when you know who you are, you can attend to everything. You can get whatever you want in this life. So, Pastor, you were going to tell us something about artifacts.
Yeah, what I want to say about artifacts is that, you know, one of the things which has caused people, or the reasons for which people demonize artifacts, is because within African culture or African settings, most of our masquerades, you know,
Juju? Our
the
jujus?
jujus, yeah, what they put on,
symbolize,
yeah, they are always linked. So with that, everything that looks artifacts, people look at, there should be some demonic undertones to it. But I want to say, as far as culture is concerned, be they the artifacts, the values, the norms, and what have you, the intent behind each and everything is what matters most. The intent behind it. Let me draw a parallel. I want to take you to the Bible, if you don't mind. When you read the Bible in Exodus, you read from chapter 31 to chapter 39, you will see two parallels are drawn there as far as artifacts are concerned. The Bible shows us that when Moses was leading the Israelites out of Egypt, they got to a place where he had to go to the mountain, Mount Sinai, to collect the Ten Commandments. So in the course of his stay there, the people mounted pressure on Aaron, and he produced a golden calf. That's artifacts. He produced it for them, and they began to worship it. They began to worship it as an idol. So God was mad at it, Moses was mad at it. But this same God also told Moses to construct a sanctuary, which when he was constructing it, God put craftsmanship in Bezalel and Oholiab to be able to get things to embellish the sanctuary with it. What does that mean? It means that most often some of these things get demonized because we think the intent behind them is actually negative. But to have just, you know, an artifact that has no spiritual connotation has no problem. And it is the same thing in our African setting. When you look at, it is true the Bible is against polygamy when it comes to marriage. I'm linking it because when you look at, in those days, Africans, the true African man was the man who had more than one wife.
Yeah.
Though that is contrary to biblical teaching, but their their intention, their desire for doing that were purely to make a name. That a real man should have more than one wife, and they really wanted to have it for economic reasons. That if I have maybe 3 wives, and each of them delivers 5 children, I'll have 15 children.
Prestige, yeah.
So if I have a big cocoa farm, a big coffee farm, I have a ready workforce already, and things like that. So the intention of some of our cultural values are very important. Our artifacts also inclusive. I think if my memory doesn't fail me, in the mid-90s to 2000, the Catholic Church brought in the concept of enculturation. And some people got so mad at it. But my view on it is, if we have masquerades enter the church, and they are just those things, those artifacts, without any spiritual connotation to them, I see no worry with it.
Okay, that's very important. So tell us, we are getting into the world of cinema. Is there any link? Do you appreciate the movies, or do you have a particular thing that disturbs you about the movie industry right now?
Yeah, I think when movies are made to be too abstract, or the hyperbole, the exaggeration in them are too sharp, that is where I have a problem with movies. It is always good that we have movies that reflect our local realities. If the local realities are not reflected, it will look like, you know, the want to force people's mindset into an impossible realm.
Okay, too much dreams.
In fact, unrealizable dreams, to say.
Okay, let's get to the trailer for this edition. We are going to have more before we say goodbye.
For 3 years, this country has suffered in the hands of terrorists. People have died. Innocent people.
So we won't start politics inside this prison. And that is the only way we cannot forget our democracy.
Such a shame how your government treats our civilians.
Will you spare me all that nonsense?
That is why we'll never stop fighting with you.
You will all die if you don't make a move to safety.
They have your wife in your house, and they're going to kill her in 3 hours if you don't return the flash drive.
I want to see his body still in the clothes. I want to see him. I want that goddamn flash drive found.
You know, you actually haven't told us why somebody in the army is trying to kill you.
Complete the transaction and no one would get hurt.
You must really be a big dreamer.
I have a plan. Trust me, it would work.
Shoot her. Must we fight amongst ourselves in a place we claim to be hiding? Go! I will disassemble you! I will put you back, disassemble you again!
And that's why for this edition we are going to continue into the world of discovery, and the discovery is the top best dances in Africa, traditional dancing. Watch it and I assure you will not regret.
Welcome to Tunacheki and thank you for watching. If you want us to cover any of your topics, leave your suggestions in the comments below and make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you don't miss any of our videos. African traditional dances refer mainly to the dances performed by the cultural communities found in the continent. Communities use these dances to teach, to socialize, to celebrate festivals, and to mourn during funerals, while some dances are exclusively used for spiritual or religious practices. And in this video, Tunacheki presents the top 10 traditional African dances. At number 10, we have the Agbadza dance. Agbadza is among the oldest musical types performed by the southern area of Ghana, Togo, Benin, and parts of southwestern Nigeria. Agbadza is derived from an older war dance known as Afrikultures. And number 9, we have the Mogola dance. Mogola dance originates from the Baganda tribe of Uganda and is performed by both men and women. And at number 8, we have the Chakacha dance. Chakacha is a traditional music and dance style of the Swahili people of coastal Kenya and Tanzania. It is originally associated with weddings and it's usually performed and watched by women. And number 7 is the Pat-Pat dance. The Pat-Pat dance is the traditional dance of the Jola people of Senegal. It involves rhythmically patting the body and fast leg movements. And number 6, we have the Eskista dance. Eskista is a traditional Ethiopian dance performed by both men and women that is known for its unique emphasis on intense shoulder movement. The dance is characterized by rolling of the shoulder blades, bouncing the shoulders, and jilting the chest. Eskista is typically performed to traditional Ethiopian music but can often be incorporated into modern forms of music. And number 5, Aduma dance. This Maasai dance is performed by the men who leap into the air to show their strength and stamina as tribal warriors. And number 4, we have the Indlamu dance. Indlamu is a traditional Zulu dance from South Africa where the dancer lifts one foot over his head and brings it down hard, landing squarely on the downbeat. Typically, two dancers in warriors' belts perform Indlamu routines together, shadowing each other's moves perfectly. Also often referred to as a Zulu war dance and is often performed at weddings. And number 3, we have the Umushagiriro or Umushayayo dance of women from Rwanda. The dance of women is more gentle, graceful, and unusual in Africa. Its strength is the graceful movements, and it highlights kindness, goodness, purity, and the radiant beauty of what many consider as Africa's most beautiful women. At number 2, we have the Adowa dance. Adowa is by far the most widespread and frequently performed social dance of the Akan people of Ghana. The Akan are located in Ashanti, Brong Ahafo, Eastern, Central, and parts of the Volta regions of Ghana. It is best described in Akan musical traditions as a women's dance because they dominate the performance. At number 1, we have the Zoli dance. Zoli is a traditional dance of the Guro people of Central Ivory Coast. The Zoli mask used in the dance was created in the 1950s, reportedly inspired by a girl named Jela Lu Zauli, meaning Zauli, daughter of Jela. However, stories on the origins of the mask are varied, and each mask has its own symbolic history.
Yes, it's beautiful in Africa. We have our dances, we have our culture. So we're going to conclude right now with Pastor Tatoh. I have the impression that he's not happy. It's coming to an end. It was 52 minutes, yes. So tell us, if there's an advice that you send out to the youth out there watching us today, what are you going to tell them?
I want to encourage the youth to just try to be organized. Yeah, the other side of the hills always looks green, but far off hills always look green too. So it is always good to concentrate on what we have on hand, and we can always make the best of what we have on hand here. When people don't add value to themselves, scarcely will they deliver value. So it is good to deliver value, and to do so, we must add value to ourselves as Africans. We must be conscious of what we have as opportunities around. We have fishing opportunities, we have farming opportunities, we have artifacts, we have just many things around us that we can tap from it to become a better people. So it is always good, but above all, learn to trust God. Above all, learn to make peace with your Creator, because He is the one who gives us the ability, the possibility to become better people in life. And the ideas which can actually impact our generation. It's not good to die with all that you are. Die at least with a legacy that you've kept, so that the generation after you can benefit to know that somebody lived of your kind.
Impact where you are, make where you are a beautiful place. You can make Africa better than ever. You have our contact. You want to tell us more, you want to discover more, don't hesitate. I'm Tessa. Is the end. We'll say bye-bye next time.